Jack is a great guy. He's written a fantastic book. Everybody's talking about it. Go get it. And he's been my friend right from the beginning of this whole beautiful event. And we're going to turn it around and make our country great again. Amen.
All right, Jack Posobiec, we're back with Will Chamberlain, lawyer for the senior attorney for the Article 3 project. Will, the other piece that I wanted to get in with you is this situation regarding the Uniform Code of Military Justice and the fact that Senator Mark Kelly, himself a retired United States Navy captain in '06, equivalent to a colonel in the Army or Marine Corps, is supposedly now under investigation by the Pentagon. Now, this is something where, and I'll just say, as having been a military, both enlisted and an officer, that the UCMJ is something that's explained to you day one. This isn't some gotcha. This isn't Calvin Ball. And you also know that if you retire and you take that pension, if you're getting those checks, then you are still subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So, Will, looking at it from that perspective, this idea of whether or not his comments and actions do actually form the basis for a sedition charge in a court-martial, which is different from a civilian court, do you think that potentially the government would have a case here?
Yeah, I mean, my understanding, and you might actually know a little bit more about military law than I do because you were so deeply ingrained in it, but you're not allowed to do things that you're not allowed to do things that knowingly undermine good order and discipline, is my understanding. And it's hard to imagine something that could undermine good order and discipline more than to
those are,
that
believe it or not,
unlawful.
Believe it or not, actually, just to give you the lanes here, that's an entirely separate statute. So, right, so there's an article for good order and discipline, 134. This is like your general catch-all. There's Article 92, which involves insubordination, and then there is, of course, the sedition. I had this pulled up a minute ago. The actual sedition article itself. So, I mean, there's quite a few articles that cover this, and then for a lot of people not understanding, if you take the pension, you are still considered subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Right. And it's like we shouldn't have retired senior military officers who hold the esteem of being retired senior military officers saying things that undermine the good order and discipline of the Army. Right? I mean, the fact that military service members can't obey unlawful orders or shouldn't obey is drilled into them from the beginning, but it's drilled into them in the context of the fact that they need to presume that orders are lawful and that they need to obey their superiors, and that insubordination is punished as well. So when you have 6 senators getting up there drilling in the sort of opposite message, you must not follow unlawful orders, while not being able to identify a single unlawful order that's been issued, everybody understands what you're doing. Everybody understands that you're trying to foment discontent and insubordination in the military, which is something that you're prohibited from doing, something that Captain Mark Kelly is prohibited from doing and should know better.
No, and it's something, by the way, when you mentioned he should know better, this is something that, look, if a member of the military did this while they were serving, I should say, a regular member of the military, someone who's not, a famous Democrat who takes selfies with Alex Soros and who's invested in Chinese spy balloon companies, right? If you did something like this, then you would absolutely you would either be brought to the captain's mast in the Navy, which is something we have for extrajudicial punishment, and as an officer in high standing, like an '06, as he is and continues to be, by the way, because he's receiving a retirement pension commensurate with his rank, then yes, he absolutely should face something like this. And it's not about necessarily punishing Mark Kelly. It's about upholding a broad standard for the entire military as an armed forces discipline.
Yeah, like you don't play games with insubordination in any military. It's the most basic idea that my whole understanding of, I didn't go through boot camp, but you did. But my whole understanding of the point of boot camp is to sort of drill into you that your job is to say yes, sir, when you're given an order, among many other things. So the last thing we should be doing is like aggressively making subordinates question whether they're being given lawful or unlawful orders constantly. Like that's, unlawful orders should be a giant, bright, glaring red light that is almost never happens, is not going to happen to the vast majority of service members ever, if not any, the complete vast majority. And so for these 6 senators to just be coming up with this out of nowhere and randomly, and the strong insinuation, those grave faces, they're really deeply insinuating that there are unlawful orders coming from President Trump right now. But it's irresponsible for them to do that if they can't point to anything that they think is unlawful.
Right. And so that's exactly what it's supposed to be. And this whole idea of, oh, you must disobey unlawful orders. No, we know what you're doing. And we know exactly what you're doing. You're not being coy. You're not being clever. It's very obvious. And for me, I think that when I saw this come out in the first place, I recognized the Democrat plan from all the way back in 2019, the original impeachment of President Trump, which started with a member of the military working with a member of the intelligence community to leak a phone call with Zelensky. Yes, the same President Zelensky and the same President Trump that led to this impeachment inquiry, which it was all predicated on a quid pro quo that never actually took place in the transcript. But what did it start with? It started with members of the military and members of the intelligence community leaking on the commander-in-chief.
That's right. Yeah. And of course, Mr. Vindman's brother is now serving in Congress, and apparently his playbook is about 1 page long because he's making the same sort of stunt where he's, talking about how he saw the contents of a phone call when he worked for the Trump NSA, and he's demanding that Trump release the contents of that phone call again. Query whether or not that's yet again another violation of the classified materials rules. Whenever, are you allowed? You actually, again, you're an expert in classified information because you yourself. Can you just talk about what information you saw and how derogatory it is, and how people should really release it so they can see how derogatory it is?
No, you cannot. And
right. And even if you don't say exactly what the information is, you say, but it's super derogatory. I promise, and he should be forced to release it. No,
you really can't. You really can't. You can't make references to it. And I would urge, by the way, anyone to go through every single one of the tweets that I've ever written or statements that I've ever made on this show or any others to see if I've ever committed exactly what you're saying right now. Because now I'm not under UCMJ because I didn't do 20 years to qualify for a retirement pension. However, as a member of the intelligence community, I do have a lifetime NDA. And so if I were to come on here and say, hey, Will, and everybody gather around, I'm going to tell you about everything that took place down at Guantanamo Bay when I was there, that would probably be my last episode.
Yeah, probably, and rightfully so. And so I feel like maybe this has gone under the radar because nobody's talking about investigating Eugene Vindman for mishandling classified information. But there's no doubt that the contents of that phone call between President Trump and MBS are and if they haven't been released, they are classified. That is foreign diplomacy. So the fact that he's insinuating he knows what's in those phone calls and demanding transcript releases on that basis, what? This is a 6-year-old phone call too. There's no whistleblower protection for him now, that he flatly and frivolously asserted back in 2018. Or I guess his brother, it's easy to confuse the two of them, right? They both are named Vindman. Right, they both are applauded by the Ukrainians. They both leak classified phone calls.
And speaking of which, by the way, Will, we do have breaking news on Ukraine. President Trump, we talked about this at the beginning of the show. I know we only have about a minute left, but President Trump has just released a Truth Social saying that over the past week, my team has made tremendous progress with respect to ending the war between Russia and Ukraine. Last month, 25,000 soldiers died. The original 28-point peace plan, which was drafted by the United States, has been fine-tuned. Additional input from both sides. There are only a few remaining points of disagreement. This is significant. In the hopes of finalizing this peace plan, President Trump has directed his special envoy, Steve Wyckoff, to meet with President Putin in Moscow. And at the same time, Secretary of the Army Dan Driscoll will be meeting with the Ukrainians. And so really working forward to the final stages, potentially, of a peace plan. That's breaking news from President of the United States himself. Will, I wish we had more time. We'll get you back on when we have more on these legal developments. Where can people go to follow you in the interim?
At Will Chamberlain on X, and you can always follow what the Article 3 Project is doing and join our campaigns at a3paction.com.
God bless, Will, and hope that you, Jordan, and the family have a great and happy Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving.
God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore.